Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa al-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wa imamil mursaleen. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Allahumma faqihna fid din wa alimna ta'wil wa ja'alna min khayrati ummati Sayyidina Muhammadin alayhi afdalus salati wa tammu taslim. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. We seek Allah's protection from knowledge that does not benefit, from a heart that has no khushu, from a nafs that's never had enough, from an eye that does not tear, and from a dua that's not heard. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah everyone's doing well. We continue with the Seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and lessons that we can learn from it. And today we're going to talk. So last week we spoke about these delegations that have been coming to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, specifically we spent quite a bit of time on the kind of Christian delegation that came, and we spoke about the people of the cloak. And now what we do, we're moving on. So what you have is you have the first Hajj of the Muslims in the 9th year of the Hijrah. Okay, and actually interestingly, a point I've raised previously, because now we're coming up to so this weekend we should know when Dhul Hijjah starts, whenever the moon is sighted, and no doubt whatever happens when it comes to what we call as Big Eid or Eid al-Adha, it links up with Hajj, and people are under this notion that Eid is one day after Hajj. Okay, so as you can see, we've already spoke about Eid previously, going back, okay, second year of Hijrah, and now Hajj had come about in the 9th year of Hijrah. So you've got this 7-year gap of where there was no Hajj, yet there was still Eid. Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I was mentioned this as well before. Anyway, so 9th year of Hijrah, so the Prophet ﷺ does not lead and perform this Hajj. Okay, this is interesting actually. He does not lead and perform this Hajj, the first Hajj. He remains in Medina. Okay, he remains in Medina. So like I said, this is interesting because Hajj is an obligation. Okay, when you meet the criteria, and sometimes it's an immediate obligation. Okay, so those of you who have done the Hajj module with me will know. So there are two types of obligations. One is that it's obligatory to perform sometime, you know, as in we're talking about Hajj, so it's obligatory to perform sometime in your life, you know, when you fulfill certain criteria. Okay, the other is when you meet certain criteria, and Hajj becomes an immediate obligation, whereby you must perform Hajj in that year. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ would have fulfilled technically the criteria of immediate obligation as far as we're aware. The reason why he didn't perform Hajj that year was because so many deputations were coming, and he needed to be in Medina that year to receive them. Okay, so the kind of linguistic meaning of Hajj is travel seeking out something venerated. Okay, so the legal meaning of Hajj is that you to go to Mecca and the Kaaba. Okay, with the linguistic, like I said, to seek out something venerated. So you could say to visit your parents is a Hajj, to visit your sheikh, etc. All of this, it's a Hajj. Okay, so in a sense, the Arab tribes are actually making Hajj to the Prophet ﷺ if you take the linguistic meaning. Okay, so the Arab tribes were making Hajj to the Prophet ﷺ, so he couldn't actually go to Hajj. Right? And again, we just talk about the linguistic here. I don't want everyone there hitting the roof or what's going on here. What's he talking about? How can that be possible? So we talk about linguistic. Just when you a lot of these. So when we speak about Saum, when we speak about Salah, when we speak about Zakat, try, you know, whenever I've taught those modules or those topics, we always look at the meaning, the underlying meaning of the word itself. So what would the Arabs have understood when they heard that word? Okay, what did they understood when they heard that word? It's only after that that word is then linked to a worship action. Okay, but because the Arabs already knew that word, you have that. It kind of increases the meaning so much more for them to understand. Okay, this is what it meant. Now it's linked to that. Now I understand what it means like this. Okay, so he sends out Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq to lead the Hajj, and he gives him kind of all the details. Okay, so it's not just Umrah, don't forget. So there's all this extra stuff, you have to go to Mina, you have to go to Muzdalifah, you have to go to Arafat, etc. All of this, the stoning, whatnot. So there's so much extra to be taught. So he gives him all the details and explains to him, this is exactly how you perform Hajj. But it's Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq who will be leading this. Okay, so Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq with 300 Muslims. In the first Hajj, this is the kind of some of the most senior Sahaba are going to perform Hajj, and being led by Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Okay, now there's wisdom in this also. Okay, the wisdom is that next year, so we're going to jump ahead a bit without trying to give too much away, but next year we're coming to the farewell Hajj, and there's not going to be just 300 then. There's going to be so much more. Okay, I won't mention the number, don't give any spoilers, but there's going to be so much more people. Okay? So you'll have these 300 Sahaba, trained Sahaba, who've already done the Hajj. You can say the Hajj guides. Okay? You're going to have these Hajj guides. They'll be there to show others how to perform Hajj, kind of to guide them all along, because the Prophet ﷺ will be there. Just imagine that Prophet ﷺ alone trying to then show everyone how to perform Hajj, and you've got so many people. See how difficult it becomes. So again, there's always wisdom in the behind of it. Now, one of the verses actually in Surah Al-Imran is about, behold, the first house of prayer established for humankind is the one at Makkah, a blessed place and a center of focus, of guidance for all people. Now, this was a reference to the place of worship of Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and it was actually at Arafat that he sought the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some say 40 days, 40 nights. I'm probably sure it's a proper image, but most of you have probably seen images of it, where you always see it's that kind of oblong, white kind of shape that's on top of like a hill, and where at Arafat all of the Hujjaj normally go, and a lot of them try to obviously go to the top. You guys will relate to what I'm talking about. Jabal Rahma, basically that's what it's known as. So like I said, this verse is in reference to the place of worship of Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and it was at Arafat that he sought the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I said, some say for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired some words to Prophet Adam alayhi salam and kind of turned in acceptance to Adam alayhi salam. Okay? And according to Imam Qurtubi, those words were, "Oh Allah, I seek your forgiveness for the sake of Muhammad." Okay, for the sake of Muhammad. And when asked, how do you know this name Muhammad? Obviously, this is kind of just as a narration we're talking about. Obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, but then again, still, Adam alayhi salam says that when I was created and when you kind of rule into me, and I was brought alive, on your throne I saw written, so the kalma la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Okay, so even there's no waw in between. Okay, and this is where I got this name from. So for the sake of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Adam alayhi salam asked who was Muhammad, or who is Muhammad, he will and he's informed he will be from your offsprings. Okay, the seal of prophets and the best of creation. Okay, this is, like I said, according to Imam Qurtubi's position on this when it comes to the forgiveness of Adam alayhi salam. Now, so we mentioned previously when we covered Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam came to this place and this he was inspired to build the Kaaba. So where he leaves his son of Ismail al-Islam and Prophet Islam and Prophet Ibrahim al-Islam's wife, where he leaves them in this, at that time we say we call it Makkah, but Makkah there was nothing there. Okay, so we know the story. I won't go into detail, but he's then inspired to build the Kaaba. Okay, because this was the location where Prophet Adam al-Islam worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so there is a difference of opinion whether there was a structure there before, but the popular opinion is that there was no structure there, but Prophet Adam al-Islam he put rocks around to mark the area where he prayed. So that was the location. That's where the first worship took place. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, behold, the first house established for humankind is the one at Makkah. Okay, a blessed place and a guidance for all people. Okay, in it there are clear signs demonstrating that it's a blessed sanctuary chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the center of guidance, and the station of Abraham. Okay, Maqam Ibrahim. Maqam of Ibrahim. Now, what is Maqam of Ibrahim? The stone he stood on. And again, we've gone through this as well, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was only two of them, Prophet Ibrahim al-Islam and his son Prophet Ismail al-Islam, who were building this structure. Okay? But this kind of big structure was built, like I said, by just two of them. So the example is the Temple of Solomon. Okay, the Temple of Solomon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, King Solomon, we gave him a great kingdom. Okay, that's what described. We gave him a great kingdom. Now, the like of which no one else had. Now, it wasn't the fact that he ruled over massive territory. Okay, so he was a historical king, but compared it to, let's say, the Persian, the area was he ruled was like a small province. But the greatness that we speak about, the great kingdom that we're talking about here, was the fact that he ruled over both man and jinn, over birds, etc., all of this. So the kingdom was the unseen kingdom. Okay, so it was the jinn that built the Temple of Solomon. Okay, but the Kaaba was built by Prophet Ibrahim al-Islam and Prophet Ismail al-Islam. So how is it the case that they could reach so high? So this is what the Maqam of Ibrahim was. It's a rock that he stood on, and it would levitate basically, elevate. So when he needed to go, grab a rock, etc. And then when they need to go higher, the rock would go up, and then they were able to build the structure. Prophet Ibrahim al-Islam was able to build the structure. So the verse continues that whoever enters it is in security, against any attacks and fear. So this is where we get these sacred months come from. So we're in one of the sacred months. So where did this come about from? So some of the positions is obviously the likes of, say, Rajab. Okay, it was a sacred month because that was generally the time to do Umrah. All right. So then there's no fighting, etc. Then you had the months of heading for Hajj. So Zulqad, all right, you're heading out to do Hajj. All right. So then when you're traveling, you're protected. These are the sacred months, no fighting, etc. on pilgrimage. Then Zulhijjah. Then obviously heading back, Muharram. So there's where these sacred months come from. So then the verse going to continue. The pilgrimage to the house is a duty owed to God by all who can afford a way to it, and whoever refuses or is ungrateful to God is absolutely by not fulfilling this command. God is absolutely independent of all creatures. Now, when this verse was revealed, people thought that the Hajj was an obligation every year. Okay, for people in Arabia, you can understand why they would think that that's normal, make a pilgrimage every year, and Hajj is obligatory every year. However, the Prophet ﷺ said no, it's only obligatory once, okay, in your lifetime. And this is from the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. This comes from the legislation of the Prophet ﷺ. Most of this involved in making easy for for his ummah. So you have so many hadiths that come about, and they start off the Prophet ﷺ saying that if I did not fear hardship from my ummah, ... Okay, if I did not fear hardship for my ummah, da da da. So just imagine, so many times the Prophet, that's the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ, because he realized it would be difficult for us. Okay, so it was obligatory once in a lifetime. This is the mercy. You can, imagine Islam wouldn't have spread if this the case was that you would have to make a journey every time. It'd just be so hard for them. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq leads the pilgrimage. However, you have some more kind of verses of the Quran revealed around it. So I'll just mention what Martin kind of refers to here. The time of the pilgrimage was approaching, and the Prophet appointed Abu Bakr to take charge of it. He set off from Medina with 300 men, but not long after they had just having a look. Okay, if there are any problems with the connection, etc., just let me know. Okay. So not long after, I set off in Medina with 300 men, but not long after they had gone, there came a revelation which it was important that all the pilgrims to Mecca, both Muslim and polytheists, should hear. So this is interesting because not just Muslims coming for Hajj, even though idols had been destroyed, the polytheists are still coming in to the Kaaba. Okay. So you still had this, even though people were still coming, even non-Muslims. Okay, so this kind of both Muslims, the message was important for both Muslims and non-Muslims. None shall be a transmitter from me, but a man of the people of my house. So the Prophet said, said the Prophet. So meaning only someone of his household will be interested with this revelation. Okay, will be interested with this revelation. And he told Ali to set out with all speed and overtake the pilgrim. He was to recite the revealed verses in the valley of Mina, and obviously there's a position that it was like with Arafat. And he was also to make it clear that no one after that year would be allowed to go round for the holy house naked, and that idolaters were making the pilgrimage for the last time. Okay, so Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq is joined by Sayyidina Ali, who kind of announces these first verses of Surah Tawbah. Right? That's first verse of Surah Tawbah. When Ali overtook the others, Abu Bakr asked him if he had come to command the expedition, but he replied that he was under his command, as in under the command of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. So they went on together, and Abu Bakr led the prayers and preached the sermons. On the day of the feast, when all the pilgrims were assembled in the valley of Mina to sacrifice the animals, Ali proclaimed the divine message. The gist of it was that the idolaters were given 4 months respite to come and go as they pleased in safety. But after that, God and His Messenger would be free from any obligations towards them, so that that kind of protection or agreement, etc., will be no more. War was declared upon them, and they were to be slain or taken captive wherever they were found. 2 exceptions were made as regard those idolaters who had a special treaty with the Prophet and had kept it faithfully. The treaty was to be held as valid until its term ran out, and if any individual's idolater sought protection, he was to be granted it and conveyed to a place of safety, having first been instructed in Islam. There was also a revealed verse which seemed to be addressed especially to the recent converts of Mecca, who might fear that the exclusion of idolaters would not only deprive them of opportunities for trade, but also of many rich gifts. Okay, so I just mentioned the verse, "O you who believe, idolaters are unclean, therefore let them not come into the inviolable mosque after this their year. And if you fear poverty, God will enrich you of His bounty. Verily, God is all-knowing, very wise." Now, first of all, there's 3 points to kind of raise here. One is that we spoke about, and even mentioned there, those that are faithful. So a lot of them were still breaking the treaty that they had an agreement with the Prophet. So they're all kind of messing around as well anyway. But this is a kind of give them like a full-on, here you go, this is the time period you've got. Okay? So what is the wisdom behind it? Because if you were there, you would be thinking, oh, wait a minute, oh, now these Muslims have become all powerful, now they don't need any treaties, etc. How they don't need any of that. However, treaties still did exist. Okay, treaties still did exist after this. But if you look at what's going to happen in about like 18 months' time, say, the Prophet ﷺ is going to leave this temporary world. Okay, this is the last opportunity. This coming year is pretty much the last opportunity that the Arabs will have to become Sahaba. Okay, this particular revelation is taken as one of the signs of the passing away of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, some of the Sahaba understood this, especially retrospectively. Okay, so they were given these 4 months and then about a year. So you have a lot that's happened in the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the opportunity to maybe to go through it as well. All the rightly guided Caliphs. Okay, but pretty much, I mean, without trying to go too much into that, it was a case of a lot of them turned around and said, apostated. They said, well, we were here because of the Prophet ﷺ. Now he's gone, and that's it then. Off we go. And said Abu Bakr Siddiq actually went to war with them. Okay, this is the soft, etc. Abu Bakr Siddiq, and look how aggressive his approach was. People would be surprised, say the Umar was as well, that you're going to go against fellow Muslims, etc. He goes, if they don't, because he was around paying the zakat, etc. They said, look, we don't have to. It was only because it was the Prophet ﷺ, now we don't need to. And he went to war with them. Okay, so a lot of that happened. Okay, a lot of this happened. So after all that, it was a case of, we're giving you, we've given you kind of 19 years to accept Islam willingly. Now we're giving you like it's like the carrot, and now the stick is coming out in 4 months' time. Okay, and kind of this was only for the certain kind of groups as well, and certain Arabs. Okay, for the Arabs. Why? The Quran is revealed in their language. They understand the inimitability of the Quran. Okay, they understand it. They look, it's clear cut in front of you. What more do you want? What more evidence do you want? Okay, so that was the case. So that therefore this was put before them. Okay, so this was the case of the first Hajj, led by Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, going through all the routes, etc. So everyone was made familiar. But then obviously one of the important things was this verse that was revealed, and saying that Ali then traveling fast to ensure that everyone is clear and this is the position going to be going forward as well now. Okay, this is the position going forward now. Now, a lot is spoke about when we speak about, is it the Muslims, are they allowed, non-Muslims allowed within the Haram, etc. And obviously we can see that that has still maintained throughout, although time and time again you see some breaches of it. I don't know. Well, it's a different topic as well. Some of the time we'll discuss it, because there's certain things I need to get through. I end up going on a tangent, and then we don't get through the stuff. In terms of actually where we're going, I'll actually mention it at the end how much we've got left, and potentially when we might be finishing. Okay. Anyway, moving on then. So next we have is the son of the Prophet ﷺ, Ibrahim alayhi salam, which we've covered as well. We spoke about a couple of lessons ago. And the one thing that has been giving the Prophet ﷺ particular joy is seeing his son Ibrahim growing up, in front of his eyes. He's now reached about 18 months of age. He's beginning to talk. He's running around. He's the Prince of Medina. Okay, the Prince of Medina. Ibrahim is the Prince of Medina. Everyone loves him. Okay, the women of the Ansar competed with each other to have the honor of breastfeeding him, so that they could have that link to the Prophet ﷺ in that way. Okay, and he's a beautiful child by all accounts. Now, but he's not the way. Okay, it was not the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his Prophet that he would allow him, or that he would permit unrestricted happiness. So for every opening there is a closing. Okay, for every joy there's sorrow. Okay, and the great sorrow in the early months of this year came to an end. Okay, the great sorrow was the illness of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, the son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He became sick. Okay, we don't know the nature of the illness, but he became sick. Okay, let's again go back to this piece here. Martin Links. I'll just read out of that for you. The untroubled happiness of the early months of this year came to an end with the illness of Ibrahim. It was soon clear that he would not survive. He was tended by his mother and her sister Seerah. The Prophet ﷺ visited him continually and was with him when he was dying. As the child breathed his last, he took him in his arms and tears flowed from his eyes. Okay, I mean, first of all, what an honor to die in the arms of the Prophet ﷺ. The last thing that you hear is the heartbeat of the Prophet ﷺ. This was the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Ibrahim and Islam. Okay, so his forbidding of kind of limitation, kind of going on over the top, and made prevalent the notion that all expressions of woe at bereavements were to be discouraged, and the mistaken idea still lingered on in many minds. O Messenger, so this, when they see him crying, O Messenger of God, said Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, who was present there, this is what you have forbidden. When the Muslims see you weeping, surely they will also weep. The Prophet ﷺ continued to weep, and when he could find his voice, he said, not this do I forbid. These are the promptings of tenderness and mercy, and that is not and he that is not merciful, unto him shall no mercy be shown. O Ibrahim, if it were not that the promise of reunion is sure, and that this is a path which all must tread, and that the last of us shall overtake the first, verily we should grieve for thee with yet a greater sorrow. Yet are we stricken indeed with sorrow for you, O Ibrahim. The eye weeps and the heart grieves, nor do we say anything that would offend the Lord. Right? SubhanAllah, I mean, the Prophet ﷺ is so much pain. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ is in so much pain, and again, here you have the great kind of beauty that comes in the balance of the Prophet ﷺ. And we find this kind of mistaken notion. Okay, this mistaken notion, even in our own times, we find people go to excesses in grief. Okay, death is certain. Death will come. Okay, what is different between the life of the dunya, the fading life of the dunya, and the eternally blossoming life of the hereafter? Now, in paradise, there is joy that is not followed by sorrow. Okay, in paradise, there's joy that's not followed by sorrow. There is day that is not followed by night. There is summer that will not be followed by a winter. So, in the seasons of our souls, our springs are followed by summers, which are followed by autumns, which are followed by winters, which are followed by spring. Okay, so we go through the seasons of the soul, and each of these seasons kind of teaches us different things. Okay, so autumn teaches us patience, winter teaches us hope, spring teaches us fear, summer teaches us gratitude. Right? So we see this kind of in the cycles of the heavens and the earth. Right? We see the cycles of our own lives, and each is a blessing because it is a lesson that this world will come to an end, that joy will be replaced by sorrow, but that sorrow will be replaced by joy. Okay, sorrow teaches us about separation, okay, about the pain of separation, kind of the grief of separation. Okay, sorrow teaches us about hell, because the worst of the torments of hell is that you are eternally separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And Samagana teaches us about joy. So the joy of union. Joy teaches us about the union to be with the one that you love. Joy teaches us that paradise, because the greatest of the joys of paradise is to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? The presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, these are lessons we all must learn. Okay? And these are situations that occur in our lives to which we may respond in a kind of beneficial way, or whichever way we kind of respond in a kind of harmful way. Now, situations in which we may learn the lesson and pass the test, or not, learn the lesson and fail the test. And there we have the kind of beloved of Allah, the Prophet ﷺ, all he had to do, now imagine this, just think about this, all he had to do was, and this is a person who, remember, kind of saliva healed wounds. Okay, it's a person who kind of got a severe eye and he popped it back into the eye socket, and that person was fine. The Sahaba was fine, and he actually said that eye, it turned out to be better than the other one. I could see better from that one. Okay, this is who we're talking about, the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, you cure cancer, whatever, not touch, just touching people, etc. There's so many miracles. Now, this person, now you're telling me who's, time and time again, whose du'as were accepted. Okay, his son, his first child for over, more than 20 years, the only child born to him in the period of prophethood, from the time that his prophethood was announced. Sorry, kind of be more technically correct. Okay, lying deathly ill, all he had to do was lift up his hands, and you think that his Lord would not have answered. Okay, you think his Lord would not have answered, but you know something, he didn't. And there's no hadith that indicates that the Prophet ﷺ prayed that his own son would be healed. Okay, there's no hadith that I know I've not come across that indicates he prayed that his son would be healed. And why is that? Because, and one of the, obviously, I remember a teacher kind of talking about this, and his view around it was that because he's a mercy to all of creation. We're merciful to our parents, to our spouses, to our children, to our friends, maybe to our neighbors. But we're not merciful to those we don't like. We're not merciful to those who offend us or harm us or wrong us. But the Prophet ﷺ was a universal mercy. And as much as he grieved for his son, okay, this is his mercy to every parent who has lost a child, so that you would know that he went through what you went through and what you're going through, so that you would know and take comfort and solace in the fact that he went through this too. He lost an infant, not just kind of simply a miscarriage, but that child at the most beautiful age. Now, those parents or even the kind of siblings or those that have seen children around, where's the most beautiful age for them? Now, before I was going to say when they start walking, but generally speaking, what happens is they become a nuisance then as well. But it is a beautiful age. They're kind of walking, just about tottering around, walking, falling, standing up, walking, falling, holding on to you, kind of babbling, smiling at you. They're coming out with these kind of first words, and kind of every new word they come out with, you just like pull out the camera. Oh, look what he just said. He just said this. He just said that. That beautiful age. Okay, at that beautiful age, his son is taken away from him, so that you would know that he experienced this. Okay, yes, it was qadr of Allah. Okay, Allah decreed it. Okay, who knows better than the Prophet ﷺ about qadr? Okay, but he felt it. Tears flowed from his eyes. Look what the narration says actually. It says Abdul Rahman is asking him, what did he say when he could find his voice to speak? Right? When he could find his voice to speak, then that's when he answered him. Not straight away. So composed himself when he could finally find his voice to speak. Not a case of just like a single man tear rolling down his cheek. No, he was grief stricken. He wept, and he wept even when his companions asked him this question. Okay, and when he could recover, what did he say? He said, kind of, this is the beautiful balance. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, yes, I have forbidden kind of lamentation. I have forbidden kind of people shrieking, slapping their faces, kind of ripping their clothes, wailing so loud that you can hear it down the street. Yes, I've forbidden this, but I haven't forbidden grief. Why? Because that is part of your fitrah. Okay, that is part of your fitrah. To feel joy, to feel sorrow. This is part of what it means to be human. I remember Sheikh Abdul Yusuf was once mentioning as well, is that, when someone passes away, a child passes away, I mean, we've got, what's happening in Palestine. And at those times, I think what would happen is just an odd video would come about, or an odd kind of statement would come about, because, you didn't have the social media as it is now. And time again, you have kind of people consoling the mothers, etc. And don't cry, stop crying, don't cry at all. You're stopping them. That's merciful Allah, let them cry, let that grief come out. Okay, within limitation, like I said, for what happens a lot of the time, yes, you can talk about that, but again, my view has always been that there's a time and place to kind of educate people. Someone is really hurting, someone's in a bad state, and they're probably doing something wrong. That's not the time for you to come along and be a teacher. That's my view. I mean, people can have a different view on it, but if anything, it'll be the family members. They can say something, etc. I don't think you could come along and start saying, yeah, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Right? So there's a time and place for it, right? Yes, get this message across at the right time so people are educated enough to understand when it comes about to them how they should act. Okay, how should they go about it? Okay, so everything is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you see this here by my son has died and I grieve and I weep because that is what it means to be human. But I do not lament. I don't say why did this happen to why did it happen to me? Why did my child? What did my child do? Okay, what did this 18-month-old child deserve that this kind of is at this early death? Why did Allah take him away from me? I don't. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say those things. Why? Because of that. It has been what has been revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, that this is the decree of one who is all wise, who is literally omniscient. Okay, not just all knowing, but all wise, that Allah has done this for a reason. And that is the beauty of the balance of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Weep, grieve, but don't kind of question the divine decree, because you cannot see all ends. Even that that very kind of the kind of most wise amongst you, you cannot see all ends, and we don't know what waits behind that kind of curtain or that veil. When the kind of veil is drawn aside from our eyes, we will see the reality of things. And this is again we talk about so many times. I've mentioned it, day of Qiyamah, Judgment Day. You realize that how many of your mother's du'as, or those around you, how many of those du'as have protected you? How many of kind of near misses there had been? Because it's not happened, nothing's happened. You don't, I suppose, appreciate it, but you just don't know about it. But you'll find out about how many du'as have protected you. Near misses, this could have happened, this could have happened, this could have happened. Okay, so we're sleeping, we're in a dream, but the Prophet ﷺ is awake. He endured this as he endured the death of his uncle, the death of his cousins, the death of his wives, death of his children. Remember, he buried every one of his child, right? Apart from one, who then kind of passed away 6 months after him. Okay? Death of his parents, his grandparents. He went through all of this. So also when you and I are in the kind of depth of the loss of our grandparents, your parents, your siblings, cousins, etc., spouses, whatnot, you can say, my Prophet went through this. My beloved endured this, and he felt it like I feel it, and that's the key. He felt it like I feel it. Okay, and kind of, well, you can say that was the wisdom of the death of Ibrahim al-Islam. And time again I've mentioned this, and I say it right at the start, the Seerah of the Prophet, biographies of the Prophet, and lessons that we can learn from it. Lessons that we can learn from it. This is so important. It's like I think was it once talking with Sheikh, Sheikh Nazim, I think he said, he was coming out with something from the Quran. He goes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just doesn't want to tell you stories in the Quran. They're lessons for you. And we've said this about so many times, certain things that take lessons from it. We look at the Seerah, we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. We could start questioning this and this. There's so many things that could happen. Everything could have been such perfect, because this was the best of creation. He doesn't have a single problem. Everything goes perfect. This happens, stop and think of this happens, this is brought about, this is brought about. But how can then we relate to that? How can we take lessons from that? So certain things that grieves us and all of this that happens, it's for us to take lessons from it, right? To understand, okay, how do we cope in the situation? Otherwise it would have been, oh, what do you want me to do? Obviously there's nothing to stop me on the way I'm acting, because it's the first time it's happened. Or after the Prophet something happened to those, that they will say, it didn't happen to the Prophet, so whatever we're doing, you've got no example for it. But time and time again you have this example of the Prophet. Anyway, back to Martin Lingsley. He says he had already stressed more than once the need to make perfection one's aim in every earthly act, and many of his sayings indicate that this aim must be unworldly and detached. Sayyidina Ali is said to have summed up the Prophet's guidance in this respect as follows: do for this world as if to live forever, and for the next as if to die upon tomorrow. So again, we've mentioned this so many times, is that you live in this world, or you kind of prepare for this world, you do whatever you want to do as if you're going to live forever, but you prepare for the hereafter as if you're going to die tomorrow. Okay? To be always ready to depart is to be detached. Be in this world as a stranger or as a passerby. The Prophet said, be as this world, you're in this world as a stranger. Or another one is in terms of, you be in this world as if you're walking across a bridge. You don't build upon a bridge. You're just walking, it's there to walk across. You don't start building upon it, as you're going to be there forever, right? You're just walking across. So this is kind of lessons we learn from it. Now, on the day of Ibrahim's death, not long after his burial, there was an eclipse of the sun. But when some of the people attributed it to the Prophet's bereavement, he said, the sun and the moon are two, actually, this kind of period we're just talking about here, like I said, you got the Prophet's uninterrupted peace, obviously the happiness in the personal life, the Prophet came to an end. But then you have this eclipse that takes place. Well, on the supposition that it was a couple of days, or on the day of his burial, or some is like after his burial, but some is actually on the day of his burial. And some of people attributed it to the Prophet's bereavement. He said, the sun and the moon are two signs of the sign of God. Their light is not dimmed for any man's death. If you see them eclipse, you should pray until they are clear, or until the day daylight shows again. Now, here again we have this beautiful sunnah of the Prophet that comes about, the prayer of the eclipse. What is the purpose of them? What is the reasoning behind them? And when you see something, one of the signs of nature, this is out of the ordinary. This is something that reminds you that all the things are under the power of God. So let's get one thing clear. Okay, a miracle is not divine intervention. Okay, a miracle is not divine intervention. Okay, a miracle is not. So everything is divine intervention. Okay? Everything happens by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just that what we're used to seeing, these things that we're used to seeing, the power of Allah manifesting in a certain way. We're used to the sun rising in the east. We're used to the sun setting in the west. We're used to seeing water flowing downhill. Okay, so we're used to seeing these things. When you don't see it, when something kind of out of the ordinary happens, is that any less the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, it's simply not what you were expecting. Okay, our teacher kind of gave us a simple example. So if you come home, for example, every day you come home, and your wife or your mother, etc., makes you a cup of tea. Okay, you don't thank her for that cup of tea, because she's made that cup of tea for every single year for I don't know how many years, 20 years, whatever not. One of the days you come home and there's no cup of tea, and you notice that, where's my cup of tea? And that's the point when she reminds you, okay, oh, you remember, because no doubt, they're going to remind you, so you remember every single day I'll be making it, you've not mentioned it then. Now that it's not there, now that's when you notice it. Okay, now that it's not there, that's when you notice it. What happened to the 20 plus years that I've been making it? You didn't notice it then. Okay? It's only when I didn't make it you noticed it. Now what is this? Sometimes we need to see something out of the ordinary in order to appreciate the miraculousness of the ordinary. Okay? When the sun's light dim, there's no kind of time you appreciate the light of the sun more than when the kind of in the middle of the day it dims, and when you look around, what's going on here? Okay, and that's when you remember that the light of the sun is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, why do you do that? It's, the kind of prophetic advice when what to do when the prophetic advice is when that happens, you're reminded of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that kind of background power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's operating throughout your life. Okay, so what you do now, you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and pray. You don't really kind of notice the breeze, but when you get a hurricane, then you notice the breeze. Now you pray. Okay, when the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifested to you by something out of the ordinary, okay, happening now, you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you pray. And remember all of these times that you didn't notice the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the wisdom. And yes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made this clear to us on the death of his son. But we do also note that the fact on the day of that Ibrahim alayhi salam died, the sun eclipsed, and that wasn't a coincidence. Allah doesn't do coincidences. Okay, but we take the lesson from it, and there are many lessons to be taken from it. But yeah, so this was the passing away of Ibrahim, the son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What I just thought about it. What I probably should have done. I'm going to probably end up saying I'm going to do something now, and then it's going to give me short. Then I've got so much more to. Anyway, so there's a couple of things few things I need to do. I need to show you the Riyadh al-Jannah and the pillars. Okay, the different pillars. And inshallah, obviously, when we come to the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the current Roza Mubarak, how the setup is at the moment. So I'll go into detail of how it is then inside the kind of the room, say the Aisha's room, and how it is, etc. That. And I want to also show you Jannat al-Baqi, okay, where some of the people are the Sahaba, etc., the wives, family, etc. Of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they are buried. But they keep changing it, be honest with you. So I might end up showing you, but then they'll probably change it again. I change it just in terms of the entrance, etc. Okay, but Jannat al-Baqi is kind of gone massive now. They just continue burying, going far back, but the core at the start, that's there, kind of thing. Okay, that's there. So yeah, inshallah, we're going to do that. Let's finish. We've got. I'm going to go. Like I said, I want to. We'll go to about 1:30, so about 10 more minutes. But we finish off on this then. The death of Abdullah ibn Ubay, the leader of the hypocrites. Okay, so the death of Abdullah. So not long after Tabuk, Abdullah ibn Ubay falls gravely ill and dies soon after. Although he had been an outright hypocrite for most of the Medinan period, in his final hours he asked the Prophet to pray for his soul. Surah Tawbah had already instructed the Prophet how to deal with the disbelievers. Okay, against Umar, so saying that Umar advised him that the Prophet should not lead the Abdullah ibn Ubay's janazah, but the Prophet instructs the companions to follow behind him. When Umar asked why the Prophet would lead a prayer over a hypocrite, his funeral, given the verse from Surah Tawbah above, the Prophet respond, and did I know that God would forgive him if I prayed more than 70 times, I would increase the number of my supplications. Okay? Surah Tawbah kind of describes the hypocrites who remained behind during the Tabuk expedition, etc. Now, so this is Abdullah ibn Ubay, and there's actually a lot of discussion around this, the hypocrites. And the Prophet ﷺ led the janazah of Abdullah ibn Ubay. Everyone knew he was the hypocrite. He was the leader of the hypocrites. And we've gone over him so many times, and so many things that he's done. So the Umar advised the Prophet ﷺ not to lead his janazah. But the Prophet ﷺ again So, if he meant that he was going to be forgiven, 70 times, I'll ask for forgiveness for him 70 times more. Now, there's a different position. Martin Lings kind of says, this was from the book I was reading out, was from the book called Revelations. Martin Lings mentions that this actually, the surah is revealed after. Sorry, I think it was Martin Lings who mentioned that the surah was revealed after Abdullah ibn Ubay's death. So it's a case of before that there was nothing like in terms of that, don't standing for their prayer, etc., in the janazah and all that. But others say that no, it was before, and the reason why the Prophet ﷺ did this because is that Abdullah ibn Ubay on his deathbed he asked for forgiveness. All of what he'd done wrong, etc. He kind of owned up that he asked for forgiveness. So this is the kind of it's like he's sincere, his forgiveness, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives from the Prophet's side. He repented, so that's why he was fine, and that's why he led his janazah. Okay, so again, there's different positions on this, but we get it definitely that the Prophet ﷺ did lead the janazah prayer for Abdullah ibn Ubay, the leader of the hypocrites. We leave it at that. Actually, I think that's a good place to stop. We've not got much. I mean, I did a few things that I said I wanted to do. I think more than likely we probably got 2, maybe 3 more lessons. Then I want to have like a final kind of khatam lesson for khatam, which we won't be going over too much of it, but generally speaking, we'll have a bit of a. I think it'll be good kind of khatam for it to finish the seerah. It has been a long journey. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still give us the tawfiq to complete it. But yeah, I'm saying 2, maybe 3 weeks, or 3 lessons. So that could be 3 including the khatam, or that could be 3 plus then the khatam on top of that. It depends on how much detail I can go into the other stuff as well. I'll do as much as possible, but wherever I feel is beneficial. Again, the likes of the pillars, the likes of the Rosa Mubarak and all that, I think that would be really beneficial for people, so they can kind of understand as much as wherever possible. I've been trying to, this thing of actually putting yourself there, I really want that to happen for people. So that's why whenever I've been describing something and talking about something, and then I show an image, okay, this is this and this is where we are here. When you go, inshallah, when you go to visit the Prophet ﷺ, you can then picture this is how it was. This is what used to happen here. This is what would happen here. And subhanAllah, if that's possible, and if that's happened, I see that as a kind of massive win for me. Okay, that's something that I want to really achieve. That definitely it'll help you connect, inshallah. It'll help you connect. So there's these few things that I definitely want to do. So kind of build that in. That's the whole point of doing it. So yeah, so we are kind of close. But having said that, next week we'll have a lesson, and the week after, likelihood there won't be a lesson, because the week after, on that Monday, 17th, likelihood that's when it's going to be Eid. So yeah, here you go. Kind of heads up for everyone beforehand. So those of you that have stayed until the end, you get this extra news. What's going to happen is in about a week's time, everyone's going to be messaging me. Actually, I got my first phone call today. I've already had a couple of messages. When do you think Eid is? But I had my first phone call today. When is Eid? I need to book my holidays. But yeah, the likelihood is going to be on the 17th. When it comes, so that's for people that do it based on moon sighting. Again, the actual moon will have to be sighted, but the chances are it will be on the 17th. Those are kind of that follow Saudi and their kind of formula. I'm hoping, and it is looking likely, that it should be for the 17th for them as well. But if they do, then there's a chance it might be a day before, which is the 16th. Okay, we'll find out end of this week. So inshallah, next lesson we'll have to be able to mention to you, definitely, because the one thing about the Dhul Hijjah is that it's not the start of the month. So as we have at the end of Ramadan, then you have Shawwal. First of Shawwal is when Eid. So as soon as the moon sighted, the following day is Eid. Whereas it's different for Dhul Hijjah. Eid is actually on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So the moon sighted, then you have that 10 days before it's Eid. So then once the moon sighted, then you know for definite 10 days later it's going to be Eid. So let's see this weekend if the moon is sighted and when the moon is sighted, and then when Saudi make the announcement, then we'll know for definite where it fits. Okay, we leave it at that inshallah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.